Alright, so we're going to watch some more replays of Tier 6 Strongholds. The first 10 games are going to be with 3485Ms. We thought we could try to be more meta and get the 3485Ms, which are really, in actuality, a pretty strong all-around type tank. They don't have quite the mobility as like our typical Cromwell setup, but they have more armor, similar DPM, better gun handling, a little higher alpha, slightly less hit points. So you're kind of sacrificing mobility for a better all-around tank, and we're going to see how that goes for us. So first battle on whatever this is, Grunberg. We're going to try to play through the middle. These guys are playing an all-German setup. Hopefully we can catch them out and get some early damage, because we should be similar in mobility to them. So we catch, there we go, we catch the heavies down an alley, try to get some shots into them. We also catch the mediums and the light tank too. I think our mistake actually, or a mistake that we're making here, is that we're not getting up into the buildings enough. We're staying too far down onto the ridge there, shooting the heavies for a little too long. I think in general it's stronger to play through these buildings. So the thought here is, I'm wondering if we can flank around and just leave the heavies and not engage the heavies at all, but work into their mediums. We're having a little bit of a slower time getting our tanks repositioned. And one mistake that for certain that we're making is that we haven't located the tank destroyer. So that thing is a little bit of a wild card. It's probably down at the end of the zero line, like K0. So just something to be aware of. But again, we should be able to push into these guys and fight part of their team without the rest of their team if we're able to work down the zero line away from the heavies here. But I think we're having a little bit of a hard time crossing. And of course, shooting our own team doesn't help. So here we come. We got our tanks on the move now. And then Artie just completely annihilates us on that corner. And also now you can see on the map too, their heavies have made it back into position here to be able to help their team. We probably are not being aggressive enough here. We probably should be pushing the zero line like we had originally intended. We got a little gun shy when Artie obliterated us. And now our push is pretty much over. We have no chance of making it work. Again, the spotted tank destroyer, the unspotted tank destroyer isn't doing us any favors in that regard. So we have limited ways to win this now. We have to play really defensively and try to focus these two lower health tanks. I'm wondering if I can get the tank out with Artie. And I did. And their Nashorn shouldn't be able to engage us here. There he is. I was lucky. So actually we have a very slight chance to win right here, if we're able to get one of these low health tanks out. Of course we don't have the most hit points either. I'm thinking maybe I need to just take a shot to kill this guy. Maybe I should play from range. I feel really good if I can get the Nashorn one-on-one. I think I'll beat him. I should really shoot the heavy right here. And then I bounce him. forces me to stop in the open. I should have rushed across the road, but I mean, I wasn't probably going to win anyway. So, not what we wanted out of our first game in the 3485Ms. That was actually a pretty realistic scenario where we should have been able to take advantages of the armor of our tanks, and we should have been able to take advantage of different city positions. I feel like we didn't exactly play the city positions all that well. We probably spent too much time lower down on the ridge shooting the heavies when we should have been up engaging the mediums. Alright, this is our second game with 3485Ms, open map. They don't have vision tanks. I guess their Cromwell is a vision tank. Again, when I say vision tank, I mean something that has good camo, good view range, and mobility enough to quickly change angles and spot things from different flanks and that sort of things. So our light tanks should be able to spot them at range and just drive away and keep them spotted at range, whereas their Cromwell is going to have a little harder time doing that because of those characteristics. Light tanks are really good at that, but you do give up some firepower. The rest of our team is going to go up to the middle ridge. That's a really common play, is to send a tank with vision along that top part of the ridge. I would expect, you know, there we go. I was going to say I'd expect some of their mediums to be showing up along the K and J line. That's typical play. KV2 spotted base. We may have some shots on him. They have a tank destroyer. They have a KV2. They have tanks that are going to have, by definition, limited mobility. I'm going to be spotted right there. Of course, get tracked. Hopefully, I don't get tracked again. I should be able to get out of this without too much difficulty. But we're not really in position to spot these guys. The Cromwell on the mid-ridge is really holding us at range with his vision, and the KV2 is holding us from pushing, and you know, probably the Su-100Y as well, are probably holding us from capping base. We probably should have just taken that, in retrospect. We probably should have taken that gamble and attacked into their base. The KV2 shouldn't one-shot us, mostly. We should do a lot of damage, but not one-shot us. And so with all of their tanks chasing me and relatively out of position, there we kind of came down. The direction was to come down off the L ridge and come down onto the mid ridge a little bit and try to get shots out to the guys that were chasing me up there, but they're going to be in a fairly strong position. And our guys, one of the tanks that just died got hit by the KV2 somehow, so we're not really even sure where he is or how he would have gotten a shot there. It really, they shouldn't have shots from where he was last spotted at, like F9. That shouldn't have viable shots. So we're really suffering now from both lack of vision but also lack of position. Ideally, we would have had a light tank on the L ridge holding vision, and me holding vision at this angle. Making this play happen earlier probably would have been helpful. The play of bringing the 85Ms down towards the Sand River Basin. Maybe they should have got into the basin for more cover too. Felt like we didn't have the mobility and there was too much unknown to attack into base, but a counterattack into base, like with the Cromwells, I think that would have worked really well. Would have been into that KV2 really quickly. I think maybe we should have tried it, gone around the low side of the north side of the L ridge. So yeah, we didn't kill any tanks, even though we have more armor and more vision, and they have two derpy ass tanks. this is just meaningless battling at this point. But yeah, I guess I said what I thought. Um, our plays are more limited with 345Ms in terms of ways we can, as a team, outplay the enemy. I feel like we don't have the ability to reposition quite as fluidly. So here's Sand River, opposite flank, similar team lineup to us in that they have a lot of 3485Ms, but they also have a couple other tanks sprinkled in there, the 40 TP and the Firefly, which are, I would say, not super strong tanks. And actually the 3485 without the M variant is actually not that strong either compared to the 3485M. But anyway, so we're going to try to use our advantages on an open map of vision control and to the best of our abilities spot them at range, keep them at range. Our 3485Ms are going to try to take positions in the north. And I feel like the meta of this map actually is, maybe I'm behind the meta. I think that teams mostly try to play through the Sand River and through the south more than they used to, and maybe I'm behind on that a little bit. We frequently see teams like right where they're at is where I wanted our team to be last game, where you have some shots from this wide angle over here, but you shouldn't get shot from where like our tanks are. You know, the ones in the middle are different, but so we need to be working vision to find the 40 TP. He's obviously isolated. And even sending 2 tanks to go engage the 40 TP wouldn't be a bad idea here. They're down into the valley. I'm pretty much shooting on reload. It looks now like they're going to come engage our tanks, so I'm telling our tanks to prepare for a fight down there. They should have some advantages in that I've been knocking off hit points from these guys. So we just basically need to play defensively on that location. They're going to have a mismatch in terms of tank numbers. And so the other tank's going to come down, and we're going to actually leave the 40 TP up above and try to get the rest of our tanks in the fight here. What happened as our 3045Ms moved, drop Artie there to try to give us a fighting chance too. I knocked one of them out or 2 of them out. What happened is our 85Ms moved across the open there, they got kind of farmed. So there's that 40 TP. Again, we really needed to have vision on him, and we didn't. So that would be partially an issue. We should be able to gain control of that fight now. They have 2 tanks not in the fight. I've been farming them the entire time. I think at this point I have like around 1500 damage. So now we have a tank advantage. I don't know that we have a hit point advantage. A couple one-shots there. So I'm rapidly trying to either flank or get vision on them. I would expect the Firefly to be playing through the middle somewhere. So our tanks just need to kind of chill in good defensive locations until we can find them and not get the one-shots isolated. In fact, our one-shots should almost not even engage right here. They should allow the tank that's not a one-shot to engage, which I think is maybe kind of a failing of what happens. I think, yeah, we just lost a one-shot tank to the 3045M in the face there, where a tank that was healthy probably could have been getting around. So then all they have a positional advantage on us, and I can't quite get back in time to make it happen. But there's still no reason why that 3485M shouldn't have died. We had an effective 3-on-1 against him. Here's an interesting thing. I'm ammo racked, so I thought I was going to get to shoot him again, and I was fumbling to repair my ammo rack, and I couldn't do it. I hit the wrong key, so I kind of screwed up and took a shot extra there that I wouldn't have needed to. But, you know, ultimately that shot could have hurt me. I really needed to kill that guy. Ultimately, that engagement that I just had with above them isn't what's going to win or lose this. I mean, arguably I could have probably gone and joined the 4 tanks that were down in the Sand River there. Or the 3 tanks made it a 4 tank. Maybe we could have rushed their 40 TP. We really needed to find a way to kill that 40 TP though. I think he came, I don't know if he's on full health, but we had enough tanks where, you know, if you're one shot, you just can't get shot. You know, you have to fall back and wait for your tank with health to take one, and then you get 2 shots for 1 instead of 1 for 1. Or maybe he shoots first, so you get 0 for 1, and then another tank gets 0 for 1. You know, it's not super complicated math, I guess. Part of that is just knowing, right? So knowing that you're one shot, knowing that you're not a one shot. The tank with, I think he had like 400 health, he could take a couple shots. View range play. I was actually wondering if I was even going to get spotted there. This tank has awesome camo. So I was somewhat lucky to spot him. I figured he was going to have to move. I figured the Firefly, I was last spotted up above. I repositioned down south to try to change the angle on them. And also this, there's enough cover over here. So I'm not spotted. I'm going to wait till he's behind the tree, shoot. So I don't think I'm spotted there. I think that time got me spotted. Yep, so I actually waited till he was behind the palm tree to shoot, because I knew that would provide me cover. Now we're at really close range. I should have probably backed up. That was really unlucky. I had the first shot and I missed it, and he shot on the move and killed me. I should have won that game right there, but I guess that's not how that one went. Okay, so I've said it before, I'll say it again. The center ridge is a prominent position and of really significant importance on this map. And so I feel like essentially it's a mirror matchup. We've got the same lineup as them except for the Bread Panther. So we need to get vision and try to micro outplay them, which is something that these tanks, as opposed to the Cromwells that we usually run, should be relatively better at. So the 64 is going to one of my favorite positions, which is really, really strong. That kind of cluster of bushes there. So I need to try to keep him out of that. And I'm going to reposition to provide vision. Provide vision support so that he can't use that and farm us in the side. So I just spotted him there. Our tanks are otherwise taking various defensive locations through the middle, just trying to poke and make plays. I'm communicating with my team that this 64, if spotted, really needs to get shot up, because it'll free us up significantly as far as what we can do. We got a tank out. I'm going to use Artie on another one. I'm watching my map now, looking for the 64. I probably didn't see him quite early enough there. Tracked in the open. We got to kill him. Now he's a one shot. I really should go rush him. I'm not sure if I do or not. I really should go force the win on that tank. But that tank's low too. I guess I'm tunneling here. Yeah, I should be rushing the 64 right now. This is a misplay by me. I guess it's 2 shot for this tank, but So now we should have a lot more freedom to use this side of the map. And as soon as I go dark, I really should also probably move up here. I see this one shot, I really want to kill him. I get a flash of green every once in a while. That was probably not a good shot. Yeah, I get a flash of green, but I'm just not able to... He's just angled too much. I'm not sure what's green, if it's the corner of his turret or what. I should be aiming for that guy's turret. Yeah, and they're not going to see me from this range. Yeah, I need to move. I need to change the angle here. Meanwhile, our other Type 64s moved around to flank them. I'm kind of holding 2 tanks here. The Brett can't re-engage because he'll get shot in the side by me. There, he's angled a little differently. There, we got him. So our Type 64 on the bottom. In the south is farming them from behind. We've got enough tanks alive with hit points where our micro outplays are going well, and then we were able to control the flanks as well. So that's, I think, what went well in this one, is we not only micro played well in the middle, but we were able to flank them as appropriate with our light tanks and kind of just encircle them. Kind of wondering where that other 34 is. It's odd that he hasn't been spotted, and I was kind of feeling like we didn't need me in that city engagement. I thought they had it, so I wasn't rushing in to help. I would expect them to be back here. Yep, there he is. We got a good win, and we're trying to turn blue by shooting the guy in cap. That was a really good win against a pretty decent team. Alright, here's a battle on Runeberg with a team with a bunch of Cromwells, but also some 3485Ms. We're going to take the middle positions along the mid-ridge and see what transpires. So a lot of their team spotted right there, obviously. We're going to try to get shots onto them from the middle positions. And they're going into that central position. This is a really atypical move for Strongholds. I do not see this very often, and I think it caught us a little off guard. When they're in that position in the center there and using those windows, they've kind of got us in a crossfire now, but we really can't be down the hill. This is a really exposed position. We got to get up into cover, or we could have, I guess, engaged them down into the city, accepting crossfire from the Cromwells. That could have been a better play potentially. So we need to either all get uphill where I'm at and engage their Cromwells with keeping them out of firing lanes, or we need to go into the true city and just flat out flank them. So we've got our tanks repositioned here, kind of had trouble getting relayed what we were wanting to do. I think I said town or city or something, and some people thought I meant down into the bulk of the city. I should have drove behind the other. I was too worried about Artie there. I should have drove behind these buildings from the get-go. I was too worried about shooting Artie. So anyway, we should have been more together. Some people thought I meant down in the city. Some people thought I meant up into the little town area. And now we're engaging them one at a time, which doesn't ever go well. we decided that with what we had left, we had to commit to something, so we were committing to attacking into there. I was wondering if we could just hold and maybe outflank and outcap them, because going down this corridor is also not a good idea in general. They're already on cap, so we could turn around here and probably still be okay, but they also start pushing down the central corridor. And we have not enough hit points and not enough tanks to deal with this anymore. So I think the failing here was when they went to that central position. We probably should have counterattacked directly into it, just knowing that with the bulk of our force, knowing that the Cromwell's going to have side shots on us. And maybe we should even do that next time on this map, just as a proactive thing with part of our force. Again, something I don't see happening a lot on this map. So that's food for thought at this time, I guess. Is it a common enough occurrence to plan for it, or is this ever going to happen again, or should we use that position? Those are the sorts of things I'm wondering about. I should say, in regards to that last map as well, that we probably, and this is my criticism, I guess, of the 3045M, is that they're not flexible enough to rapidly reposition. So we got caught out in the field way too much there. We should have committed to going into the city or committed to getting into the buildings. We lost a lot of hit points because we weren't able to reposition quickly. And that's something that like other tanks, like the Cromwells and light tanks, by definition do a lot better with. And tanks like 3485M are just a little bit sluggish in that regard. So we're going to play right into town here. My plan was to go more to town with this little spotting loop, but just see if we can't get some eyes on somebody. We've got a heavier, more armor-based lineup, so we're going to try to play through town. The problem with this is that if there's anybody at all in the Overwatch position at A4, it gets to be challenging. I saw that at least a Cromwell was going to play this way. Maybe he's just scouting or whatever. Yeah, I'm clicking on the map where I think I want to avoid. Yeah, so they have at least 2 Cromwells out here in the field. We're asking if they can reposition and get shots. We should be able to play that 3045M right now that's just spotted. We should be able to play him to some degree in the city without a lot of their team involved. Again, I'm clicking it. We know where they're going to be. There's going to be a guy in the Overwatch position right there. Just be aware of that as we're moving through the city. And I'm asking the other light tank to go around and get spots so that those guys don't feel comfortable just sitting up there in that position. Like if he can, from A7, spotting them. So there we go. Here's a bunch of their force spotted on the move. Not sure, maybe that one Cromwell is going to come try to spot me. These guys are certainly moving to support the city. It shouldn't be an issue though. They have at least 2 tanks in Overwatch, 1 tank in the city, 2 tanks moving to the city. So we should have a pretty good overmatch against them right now in the city. But I think we're a little too separated. I want to try to, yeah, right there. So there's those 2 3045Ms got themselves isolated without any support. I'm not sure why these guys weren't able to get in there and support them. I guess they are. I'm trying to use Artie, or think about where I can use Artie. So they took us with a 3-on-2. We didn't get a kill. 3 of our tanks were half a building away and weren't able to get there in time to help, or didn't realize they needed to reposition or something. I'm not sure what happened. They've got 2 tanks in Overwatch that are unable to fight with them right now. So we're getting pushed in a city by Cromwells, even though we have an overmatch in armor and tanks. So I mean, they don't only have Cromwells, they have 3045Ms, but that should be an even matchup for us. We should have an advantage here. They have two tanks that are not involved. We had our light tank able to support fire. I was not involved, and I'm kind of wondering what I should do here, to be honest, whether I should try to get in there or not. I probably should have went right in. There's one of their tanks, both their tanks that were on Overwatch just now joining the fight. So, you know, I mean, we had whatever we had against 5 tanks for a lot of this battle, and weren't able to kill more than 2 of them. I think that's a microplay issue. I don't think that we were maybe taking the best positions or whatever, and I'm very frustrated, so I'm going to back into them here. Because that shouldn't happen when we have tanks that should be better at micro outplaying. That's the whole point of taking the 3045s, is they're more forgiving and we have less flexibility and ability to adapt to the flow of battle, but we have more ability to micro outplay, and we just got annihilated by micro outplays when they had no numerical or strategic tank advantage with their Cromwells. So that we just got beat by because we were bad, I guess. So far we've won 1 game and lost 5. This is the first time in a while we've really given the 3485 lineup a try. I've now switched to the 3485M as well, and we have a single light tank. I feel like you got to have some vision. It makes it tricky if you don't. They haven't already. We have every reason to not get shot by Artie. We should be able to use buildings. We should be able to do things that their Artie is a liability. That's how it should work. We still want to take the prominent position up here in the middle ridge, as we're getting into position, trying to get shots. We know that 64 is going to cause us trouble, so I think I said somebody needs to just camp him until he's dead. So every time he pokes, we need to be putting a shot in him. So this is a fine play to get safe up into here and camp that 64, and then try to work angles around. I got shot by Artie, like the Artie feature. We did kill the 64. I should have repaired that, I guess. I mean, my crew is really good, and I thought that I'd be able to repair it soon enough, but I guess not. So each team is down a tank. There's their actual artillery unit. I feel like it'd be advantageous to push around and flank them here from the side like these guys are trying to do. I don't know if the 64 should be doing that with no hit points necessarily. I feel like this depression down here is too exposed to Artie, and it's not able to be flexible to get shots off through the middle. You can see how much driving is required to get shots, whereas if that tank was on a building right there, that would have been shooting already. So micro position issues here. And now we're hemorrhaging, so we've gone from having a strategic disadvantage, in my opinion, by taking an artillery unit, to somehow losing against them. Again, they're not doing anything that requires coordination or teamwork. They're just using positions and shooting our tanks. And somehow we're not able to do the same thing. I think we're just getting, micro outplayed. I think they're killing us because they are just taking better positions and taking better shots. Nothing to do with how they're working as a team. Again, they have every reason not to work well as a team because they're down a unit. I mean, I don't think they already probably did any damage. So it's kind of frustrating. Alright, this battle is on Himmelsdorf. What we're going to try to accomplish is a similar thing we would in a lot of our lineups. Similar matchup as them. We're going to get our light tank to see the middle, and we're going to send our medium tanks to kind of look around, see what's going around at C3 and react to what they're doing. So unsurprisingly, all we know now is there's a light tank in the middle, and they're probably doing a similar thing that we're doing. So we'll corner fight these guys here as much as we can. Probably should be thinking about side scraping actually. See that their light tank is being fairly aggressive relative to ours. Gotta get this kill, it's a one shot. So we don't need to, they're in a really strong position there, we don't need to lose any more hit points. So now we see there's a tank heading through the middle. I want to go help our light tank, and we are able to cleanly disengage from that fight, so that's a good move. I'm actually asking another tank or two to come help me now. And now that there's another one coming through the middle too, so we need to cleanly disengage. Anybody that can cleanly disengage from that should disengage so we can isolate these tanks. I'm going to shoot their light tank, and as I move forward, use the rubble pile as much as possible to decrease incoming fire angles. Now he's a one shot. I'm going to push. I want to kill the light tank. We got people through the middle doing their job as well. The middle guys now need to reposition to take cover from that incoming medium, and our guys up in B3 need to reposition to come help out. So I was going to try to go help him, but now I see they're repositioning as well. I'm going to hold as long as I can. Got rammed by his buddy into the line of fire. I should probably be going for a tracking shot right there, but I'm really need to just use this tank to stay hull down. That would have helped to get a one shot out there too. If I die here now, it's much less of an issue now that we've got I got their light tank, or their one shot out. That was poorly aimed, I should have done that better. But I think that went well. We reacted in the ways that we needed to, and because of the closed nature of this map, it's not as hard to reposition because it's just not as far physically, and it doesn't take as much time to reposition. So that was a pretty good win. Okay, so here we are on Abbey. We're going to take the 1-2 line. It's by far the most dominant position on this map, and any map really that has a really dominant position, you should probably try to control it. Light tank's gonna try to get vision through the middle and see what he can see. We're gonna go, and if we can catch them early, light tank lost little hit points there just in a trade, but not a big deal. He's going to reposition and keep vision. If we can take an early fight anywhere, we really should take it. They have tanks that should be positionally disadvantaged in terms of, they're going to have to be really patient to move their tanks as a group. It'll be easy to leave the KV2 or heavy tanks number 4 behind. Their tank destroyer doesn't really play that well in close quarters necessarily, so we have some reasons to want to take a close fight if we can get it. So immediately we shouldn't stop in the corner there. We should take that immediately. A single tank and all the things I just talked about. So a tank's out. He He shot us twice. We need to get into this guy and do damage. This guy looks like he wants to just play defensively, so our team needs to recognize that and work on getting up into here. We took a shot from the KV-2 there. I'm going to throw Artie down. And we just need to try to corner fight these guys as effectively as possible. There's a tank out. Our light tank should probably be joining us here. I thought I was going to get the side of his turret. He's a one-shot and I missed. That's bad. You got to kill the one-shot tanks. KV-2 shot again. So we've let the KV-2 reload multiple times, and now we're at a disadvantage in terms of numbers of tanks on this corner, especially since their light tank showed up. So that guy snuck a shot on me. Our light tank is trying to come join the fight. We really should fall back away from this now and let our light tank catch up with the fray. You know, they've got a one-shot. There we go. So we lost a bunch of hit points to KV-2 again. You know, our mistake is that we probably actually should have been more aggressive there, and we probably should have tried to all-in them a little harder. For the reasons that I just talked about, we should have had a DPM advantage. We had even tanks with them. You know, the KV-2 quickly takes one away, but we quickly took one of theirs away as well. So this other 84 needs to be shooting these guys as they attack, because you know, right there, if you would have shot that guy, to be dead. Now they'd be down a tank. You know, instead of having to take another shot. So they came from behind. You know, I think there's a microplay thing there that could have gone differently. You could argue that this 8485M should have been attacking the one-shot 3485 when their KV-2 should have or had already fired. So they got 2 one-shots. We got a light tank. If we can snap a couple shots here, there we go. You know, I feel pretty good against the KV-2 in the open, if we can fight him in the open as much as possible. They're down low here. I think he probably should have stayed over and tried to spot and assumed that the 85M was going to come over the ridge first and shoot him. So if he would have shot him in the corner like he shot the 64, I think we would have been in good shape. But he has to attack here before the KV-2 can show up and get that kill before the KV-2 can shoot. So I think he probably actually should have attacked there rather than tried to cap, because we weren't realistically going to be able to cap. So that's what I think about that one. Here's Sand River again. Similar matchup. They have a scout and then a bunch of mediums. We have a scout and a bunch of mediums. I think this battle will illustrate a couple of issues. One issue is that, admittedly, it would be a good idea to rethink what I believe the strong positions on this map to be. Traditionally, we have gone out towards what we call the L ridge out here, this big overhead view that looks like an L, but this big ridge, because it in general is a strong position, and you can control a lot of the map from here. We're kind of, though, leaving our light tank a little bit. I like, we specifically said we need to control this area. I like trying to do that. You know, go up and down, control that, especially with the light tank. We should have a positional, reason to stay there. I feel like I said that and maybe it didn't happen because this tank is staying there. So that's one of the issues. Maybe we need to reevaluate how strong this position is. The way that I see most teams winning this is that they play kind of sporadically through the middle and the south, and they create crossfire, and they're not exactly coordinating it, but they're playing it like a regular pub battle, and they're able to use coordination but not on purpose, or not via communication. They're doing it because they just know what positions are relatively strong. So our light tanks had to fall back. We lost vision. You know, the argument here is could we attack around and try to capture them because they're going to have tanks relatively out and away from their base? I mean, maybe we'd get counter capped. I don't know. A bunch of us are just trying to sneak that 64 out. It would be helpful to kill a tank here, especially one with vision. So, you know, these tanks are pretty good hull down, and I think that they're able to play through their position hull down better than we're able to play from this angle. I got focused priority there. Feels good. You know, we're doing okay, I guess. I mean, we're using these little ungulations, like that tank right there is doing a good job. We're going to be hull down here. That tank's overexposing himself. You know, it's the little things, I guess, that allow you to, as I continue to say, outplay. You know, a lot of teams just rely on the fact that this is a pretty strong tank, and if you have relatively skilled clan members, you can just kind of do the right thing a lot and get away with not communicating as much. You know, I think I've said it before, a lot of tier 6 strongholds are, you know, mismatched teams. They're not on the same clan. They're not necessarily in communication with each other. They're just tanks taking positions that are relatively strong. And I feel like we don't have the ability to consistently do that, and we can make up for that with coordinated moves and coordinated efforts. But this is a good example where I feel like these tanks are like, this would be a great time to go counter cap behind them, but these tanks are never going to get there in time. And so instead we're relying on the tank being good and micro positions, which clearly aren't working out for us on average. You know, I mean, if we're going to lose this, we have generally played Cromwell heavy with, you know, mobility based lineups, because you can reposition and because you can coordinate, and you know, I have no chance to get back and help that on that Cromwell now, just because I'm, you know, well, my motor's dead, but whatever. You know, even if I repaired it, he would die before. The engagements happen so quickly that very quick movements, mobility makes such a difference. So this is our 10th game now of doing this lineup of 3045M lineups, and we've as a group noticed a couple things. One also is that we don't think it's as fun because we're not able to coordinate. We've lost a whole bunch. We're 2-8, so out of 10 games we won 2, which is really not very good. Again, why are we losing a lot? Partially it is, I think, because I might not be putting us in good positions that would otherwise work with like Cromwells or whatever. You know, maybe our positioning is weak, but maybe we're just trying to do stuff that we're just not good at as a clan. That's kind of what I think. You know, I talked about the micro positions and stuff like that. No, it was close. There was a couple tanks that are one-shots, but essentially this is our last all 35M lineup game. We were kind of getting frustrated and we wanted to switch things up, so the next game will be back to our Cromwell lineup, and we'll see how we do. Okay, so here we go. I guess as I was talking about, we've decided to get back to our own. We've decided to get back to our usual sort of team lineup here and get our Cromwells going again. I'm going to play in Cromwell, we've got 2 light tanks. This is our usual fast lineup. So we got a team here that has some naturally disadvantaged tanks in their lineup, and I say that because you know an SU-100Y has limited turret traverse and things like that, and they've got a heavy. So we're going to blast in to this location looking for an early fight that we can have some advantages against them. You know, so for instance, if their SU-100Y was camping in the back or whatever, you know, that you can make some assumptions based on their lineup. When they're not there, when we're not able to take that early fight, we're going to back out and check our cap. And when we're pretty convinced that they're not there, because you know we spotted their tanks in their spawn in that process, so we kind of half-heartedly went backwards there just to make sure. So we're going to leave the light tank back there, and we're going to get because of where we were spotted and where we were spotting them, and where we were driving and not getting spotted, we're going to actually take the corner and try to work out from there. And so we're going to start in kind of C1 and try to, with our main force, we're just going to leave our last light tank back to kind of get vision and get some not only spots, I guess, but also protect cap. So this guy has terrible view range, and I don't really feel like anybody's in position to spot us, so I kind of had the guys wait for a second and then just open up against them. I'm missing a whole bunch there. Our light tank, you can see, is moved to the middle position here. He has to be careful. He's going to get a lot of fire at him, and with him spotted there and us shooting there down the corridor, or kind of at their SU-100Y, we probably should make a pretty good effort to push here. There's a little bit of a unknown when we went to this corner, because it's really common to have some tanks camped back where these Cromwells are now, and you know, not only will they spot us, but they'd create a crossfire. But as soon as they're not there, and we were able to get some free shots into their SU-100Y, what we're going to do now is we're going to bunch up and rush underneath their guns. Tank appears in the open. We've got to shoot him now at this point, so just careful not to overexpose ourselves to incoming fire from like the SU-100Y until the go signal is called. So here's the go signal. We're all going to go. And they really haven't responded despite us all being spotted there. There's still a Cromwell in the back. They've got some tanks that are really isolated here, so what we're going to do is we're going to try to get guns blazing here. I'm still waiting a little bit for us to bunch up here, and now that we're all here, we're going to go. We just narrowly avoided arty strike there. We've got 3 kills now without taking a loss, so we pretty much just need to press the advantage and not allow them to sit at range and kill us. So here we go. Our light tank probably fell back a little much. I think he was rightfully worried about exposing himself into incoming, exposing himself from exposing himself to incoming fire from the guys from the back, and he wanted to make sure he stayed alive for a minute just in case something crazy started happening. But anyway, you know, again, game in hand, he can push in now, and the Cromwells, we can continue apparently to just shoot them one by one. The question was, should we go chasing them or just make them come to us? And so we said, well, let's just make them come to us. We have no intention to actually cap here. We just we felt like driving out in the open or whatever. We'll just let them drive out in the open and kill them here. So now that we've got another kill imminent, we're just gonna all push out here. There's their light tank. He showed up, and now we're gonna. The Hellcat's actually. Ooh, that's a bad play by me. The Hellcat's actually using the small rapid firing gun. We're gonna try to ram kill him. Awesome. But anyway, pretty clean win. They didn't really respond correctly to what we were doing, so we got a good win there. Okay, here we are. We're feeling a little more confident now. We're feeling like we're playing our lineup like we intend to, and we're feeling like we're more comfortable. So, Cliff, said a million times over, you gotta try, even if it's not really great advantage with your lineup. I always feel like you have to try to take the middle position on this map because you can control lanes of approach from the north by shooting them, especially when you got fast tanks. You shoot them from cover while they're in the open. Always good. And if they're not directly in front of us, then we can respond. The only other, or not only other, the next reasonable place to look for them would be at the donut. So we'll pop here and start getting shots right here. This is exactly why you go here, to very briefly, minimally expose your tank, shoot them. There's that rock that they're kind of sitting behind, but they're really stuck here. And you know, we're not really trading one for one here with them. We shouldn't be anyway. We should be snapping quick shots. Now we have a couple tanks that are pretty shot up. Gotta be a little careful because there's tanks above us. And now since they've closed, we have to be a little careful about not sitting and trading one for one with them. Arguably, we could have made a couple reasonable plays here. We could have certainly continued the attack because they were low on health. I kind of wanted to go around the other way. They do have tanks above us, which is a concern. I should probably remember to use our arty on the tanks that are positionally difficult for us. Like, you know, I always think, oh, I can get 2 kills or whatever with arty, but you know, you can get 1 low health one and then do no other damage. So that really, I don't know if that was worth it. I think we would have been better off killing a tank that was going to be positionally causing us trouble above us there. So we're playing this in a way that is probably disadvantageous to us. We got too far out on the hill and let the 64 above us work us a little too hard there. I think we could have probably flanked around the backside of near the water of the cliff. I think that would have been a reasonable play. I think we could have just pushed in and stayed tight to the rock and let the 64 not have shots based on his angles. But now we're in a scenario where we always struggle, and that is, you know, even though a Cromwell of theirs is not in the fight at all, we're getting slow pushed by tanks with armor, and we just always have trouble dealing with this in our Cromwells. But I mean, it's not a Cromwell specific thing, because we always have difficulty with this same exact scenario, even when we were trying the 3045 Ms. So I mean, I think it's more of an us problem than a tank we're using problem. Next battle, Runeberg. It's my general recommendation to try to take the middle again on this map. 2 heavies. One is a really slow heavy. The VK is not as slow, but you know, the whole principle again is that we can theoretically get early damage. In World of Tanks, early damage is very important in terms of trying to tip the fight in your favor. And if we can sneak some early damage in and tip the fight even slightly in our favor, then you feel a lot better doing an all-in against tanks you otherwise have, you know, disadvantages with, like heavies and such. So, you know, it's a meta play that is, how can you use your strengths versus their strengths versus their weaknesses versus your weaknesses, you know, and susceptible to the slow push against like 3045 Ms, but they have a really mixed team, so they're going to have a hard time staying together. And so we should have guns, just if they were there, again, they're not there, so we're going to find them and look for them and look for other angles. We've got our light tank going through the city. You know, if we can take some hit points from them at little cost for us, then it just makes ample use of our mobility, and it makes ample use of one of our strengths relative to their strengths. So again, they're looking like they're not pushing into the city. They're looking like they're not pushing into the field, so they must all just be sitting, camping behind the kind of this cap or whatever there in the corner. And camp takedowns attacking into the south are very challenging. Attacking to the north, I think it's more reasonable. I would usually say that depending on the lineup like ours, we want to try to do distance damage as much as possible. Our light tank can oftentimes, there's actually a couple little bushes where you can be really sneaky. So we're going to try to get our light tank in a scenario of vision and get shots out across using cover. And I'm probably being a little too silly with, I mean, they could have a light tank, I suppose, camping us and getting vision if I shoot, but we're probably being a little too cautious with the bushes here. We could probably move in a little bit, but it's more about firing angles, and since this elevated position, or since this position is elevated, it's basically the most reasonable firing angle to play any sort of distance game, and we've really got all angles covered, so it's just a matter of there's a little bit of a loop of a hill right in front of the buildings in the north that are disallowing us from really getting effective fire into these guys. And so we'll find here that, we'll try this for a minute. We're trying to work vision from both angles through the city and through the field, and we're going to find that we just don't have a lot of effective fire, and that we're going to have to close the distance if we want to win. And I suppose we could draw them, and if there were, and we used Artie right there, and I actually killed their Churchill who wasn't visualized. So I did a bunch of damage to their VK as well as killed the Churchill with that Artie strike. No, but if they're what was I even trying to say now? Oh, if they're in a really strong position to try to take down camp, I think you have to be willing to draw some if it's not going favorably. But I feel like, especially now where we've knocked a whole bunch of hit points off and eliminated the gun, that we have the ability to go play them close range. So light tanks stayed where they were. The 5 Cromwells rather, are going to move close, and we have an idea here where we're going to hold 2 different angles, and then actually a third angle with our light tanks. So the first couple Cromwells are going to go get behind the building and force them to drive out, and then everybody else is going to hold angles. So that's the idea, because really, yeah, I'm not really trying to engage these guys here other than entice them. Although with him tracked like that, we need to kill him. And since they're back there and we're doing well, we actually gave the go-ahead to go in. So light tank's going to join us. Pretty much clean up at this point. We have no real reason to lose this. I was thinking initially when we did it, we'd sit a few behind the building. This guy doesn't notice me. And then just kind of hold position and make them come back at us. But so he shot 1. This is an autoloader with 4 shells. 2, 3. Set him on fire. He shot me 4 times, and now he's reloading. So we're gonna play with him a little bit. So I'm having all the guys hold their fire, and I'm gonna hold my fire for a bit and just. I'm gonna try to track him. I think I told the guys to just only shoot his tracks, or just all get here and not shoot him. Or he's gonna shoot us now again. He's actually hitting a light tank trying to shoot me. That's 4 of them. I think we opt for the execution. Yeah, there it is. Sometimes you gotta play with your food. Okay, Fisherman's Bay Village, whatever this is. Fisherman's Bay Village. Again, a prominent middle position with lots of firing angles. I feel like there's limited abilities to win this map. You can push hard one line, but really it's best to try to win the middle if you can. This is, however, a scenario where we have all of the disadvantages that we commonly run into in that, all their 345Ms can out-trade us and out-armor us, and so getting into them even though we'll get there first, they'll get into us in tight quarters and just out-trade us, and we have an awful time getting beat like that frequently. So we're going to opt for the one-line push, and pretty arguably should have sent our light tanks with us here. but you know, I'm part of that decision was I was pretty comfortable with knowing what I thought they were going to do, and I wanted, if we could get them all to the center and then make them have to move back, then we have some guys shooting at their backs. So the light tanks are going to try really hard not to get shot early game at all, and really not even be that aggressive with vision until we get into position with the Cromwells. So here we go, typical scenario where they're very split and we're together with our main force. So I'm really not going to want to overextend here, but we got to get some kills. Again, micro plays, you have to know that they're all chilling there, and we cannot get exposed to that. We cannot overexpose down the hill like that. I think that's getting a little too aggressive, so we got to be careful with that. Again, we can poke this a little bit very carefully to try to knock some hit points off. Well, we really should try to kill this guy so we can get distance shots going like that as much as possible. So I feel like we're actually in a good position here. We've negated our main disadvantage, and we've used which is getting slow pushed by 3485 Ms, and we've used our mobility to get a different angle on them. If their light tank dies, it would be really nice. Then we'll have some sort of vision dominance as well. So again, I'm pretty pleased with how things are going right now. Other than it'd be nice to get that light tank out, but you just can't take the risk because you're gonna die like me right there. That's why. That's bad. Our light tank got slow pushed by a heavier armor tank, which is not surprising. And then, you know, again, I probably wasn't aware of this enough at the time, but our Cromwells, again, were just getting annihilated from a distance when they just really didn't need to. You know, the position that I was in, they could have backed away, used the hills a little more. So I can't call every position, right? Like, so I can't say, oh, try this position, try here, use this bush to not get spotted. You know, could we have gone more over to this location to get shots and still maintain our effective camo and still maintain our range advantage? You know, we've got guns, but we have no hit point advantage right now. So there we go. Our light tank, he was shooting at that guy. Your light tank finally killed that. So now that gives us half of a chance to get back into this again with essentially no hit points, but tanks. They're beat up too. But again, going back to what I was saying, I can't predict every micro position they're going to be in, and I can't tell our guys what micro positions are going to work for us. And so there's just has to be some give and take of like take non-risky shots as much as possible, you know. So our light tank is going to work his magic here. I feel like he should actually leave that position. I think he was spotted and he was waiting to get unspotted. Now he's going to leave that. Okay, so I think I'm reading that correctly with what happened that night. They're separated. It'd be nice to establish vision again. Talking about could they be going to cap. In this scenario, that'd be actually poor play for them. I don't think that their 185M would do well in the open capping on this map. I think that's poor play to be away from his other 84-85M partner. So I should expect that their 84-85M is in the center, and the one that's in the south shouldn't be able to easily respond. So we really need to get some vision going. So I'm telling everybody now to, you know, very carefully poke for vision elsewhere. But what we really need to do is get the eyes of the team, the light tank going. And this is, you know, in my opinion, why it's important. This game is a good example of why it's important to bring light tanks, and why 2 light tanks is a good idea, because if a tank gets killed, you still have the ability to control vision. And it also just allows you to use mobility differently too if you have 2 versus 1 light tank. But anyway, yeah, again, I'm telling guys to go to the really dominant bush location, like in the center of the 1-2 line, wherever that is. I think it's like at E1, E2. There's a super dominant bush location. Yeah, right there. If you can get into that, you're really safe to be unspotted. And it's also pretty good vision into the center of the map. So here we go, light tanks working vision. He set up his binocs, they click on, and now we got a dude that's spotted and a dude that's dead. So Again, that vision dominance, I do not think a Cromwell could have spotted that guy and or got to that location safely. So light tank's going to push vision back to the center now. Again, the assumption is that they, if they weren't together, they're probably holding different reasonable angles. The next most reasonable angle for their 3485M to be in is roughly where he was, if not pushed out across the south a little bit towards where our last known location was, like at K6 or whatever. So same thing happens here. He sets up. I believe it happens. The binos snap on. Does he get a spot? I can't remember. Yeah, there it is. Binos snap and are able to catch that guy in the open. I'm 90% sure it was the light tank that spotted that guy. And this is something that I do that's really weird, is that I run both optics and binocs and a gun rammer in my Type 64 because the vision dominance is just insanity and important, and it won us that game. So that was a really awesome win that illustrates the importance of vision dominance. And I guess to clarify and piggyback on that idea is not only vision dominance, but vision dominance when it matters, right? Like, so some maps, like this one is a good example with their lineup. Vision dominance early on this map is important. In a lot of maps, like Himmelsdorf, vision dominance just doesn't matter. You have to see them, but like you don't need hyper view range to like figure out where people are in Himmelsdorf. Early game, much less commonly important. Late game vision dominance, super important, especially on big open maps. And mid game vision dominance, which again is part of the reason why I think it's advantageous to take two rather than one light tank. You're sacrificing some hit points, but you're getting a mobile tank that can move around nearly invisibly through the entire map, and you have two of them. So if some crazy thing happens where half your team dies, then you're still okay. So here's an interesting point. So I know that my 64 is going to be in front of me, and I know that my 64 is going to tell me if he's spotted, because I trust him that he will, and he'll also probably spot them first. And there's lots of like rocks and stuff where I'm driving, so I feel, and we've also got the field covered with that 64. So I feel, again, I feel like early vision dominance is almost guaranteed unless they're like really just slammed behind a rock somewhere with their whole team and we just stumble across them, right? So again, maybe my misunderstanding or my fault that I didn't communicate this correctly or whatever, but you know, these Cromwells opted to take the safe path, which is generally not a bad idea in any game, pub game, or in this setting. But again, I read the map and lineup and said, well, there's like literally no way I'm going to be spotted here before we know about it. And I, you know, I probably am even aggressive. I probably should have gone just a little more up there, but I don't think we need to go that far up to the corner. So there we go. There's the Cromwell in the middle. Usually we should set our Cromwells to shoot up onto the hill. We're kind of interested here in pushing cap. And you can see, again, the path that I took to get across the map is vastly different in terms of speed, right? Like, so even like the middle Cromwells are like in B1. I'm 400 meters ahead of them. If we were going to fast cap them, which you know, is a good play if their bulk force with no light tanks is spotted out away from their spawn, which they are, you know, then we're just delaying things right here. We're only leaving ourselves open for bad things to happen because, you know, if there was a bunch of Cromwells right with me, we would already been capping. You know, timing is super important if you're trying to do things that require time. So there we go. We're going to triple cap and distract, push out the other Cromwells. Again, I'm watching this replay now like 2 or something weeks later after it actually happened, so I don't know, or I don't remember what exactly was the conversation, but like clearly I would blame myself and say that I probably didn't communicate the path correctly or the this scenario correctly. But again, it goes back to the thing where as we play more and more together, this should be inferred stuff, and knowing when to take a better, not better, but a higher, a faster path versus a slower path to fast gap or whatever. These are things that come hopefully with experience. So Abby against an all-German lineup. It's cool actually. If the teams are doing this, it's kind of neat that they took all Germans. They have a tank destroyer. They have some heavier tanks. And again, I've said this before that I try not to make the mistake of assuming things are much slower than they are. So like some of those VKs are a little slower. Like the VKD is pretty quick, but like the heavies will be a little slower. The VKM is probably slightly slower than the VKD. But anyway, trying to, from my perspective, from my own self improvement, trying to remember that the variance of differentials and speed can be something you can abuse in games, and to try to have a good sense of what's considerably faster, and also like what teams are able to and likely to actually wait for their team and not just like push out ahead and get separated. So again, the assumption is they have a lineup which would allow us to have an unfair fight at this corner if they're going here. And so right here, 3 tanks spotted, 1 in the middle. They look really separate. I see 2 down low. This guy's pushed in. I say let's go up and kill the guy to the right. So all our Cromwell should be in right here. This guy's as good as dead, right? We need to kill him. We got 2 heavies below us, and then another tank is spotted above us. There's 1 in the middle. So again, ultra split. They've got a tank destroyer. We have a pretty safe assumption that there is some sort of positional advantage that we can gain by just mobbing them at this point. What's going to happen? I'll say it happens fast. So what's going to happen is our light tank in the back is really worried about getting capped behind. I feel like that is hard to do on this map with a single tank. Where I think we're going to get back because it's not that far of a drive and there's really good reset positions. So I would rather he join us here. And additionally, in terms of setting up your next shot, I talk about this a lot. We really need to be setting up away from these guys. We can easily argue all day if maybe we should have gone down low and attacked these heavies, and maybe that would have been a better like meta play than going up. But again, it was a split-second decision. They were all spotted at about the same time. I don't know if there's another tank down below or another tank up above or all of the tanks up above. You just don't know, and you just have to make a decision because we need to commit our forces to fighting part of their force right now. So the decision is to go up. I'm going to resume the replay here. So we need to be getting in here. Stupid driving there, but we need to be getting up and away. And so what's happening a little bit right now is as we're getting up and away, they're closing from behind like they should, and it happens so quick. But I don't know if we didn't entirely commit to the idea of going up here. And you can see our Type 64 hasn't started to join us yet, for the reason I talked about. This guy now, he's kind of strung out. What does he do? He can't really join us. We're gonna have to turn around to fight these guys anyway. I know that we're looking a little slightly ugly here, and so I'm gonna drop some arty. Hopefully knock the guy out. Of course I miss. We're not terrible still right here. We've got 4 tanks on 2 heavies. I'm minimal health, so I'm trying to protect my hit points a little bit. We're kind of mostly fairly okay in some regards. I feel like, again, the thing that would have made the biggest difference there, luckily I didn't die, but of course the TD behind me, I need to slip away from him. I feel like our 64 is now not in a position. He slipped down the hill, and we don't have enough health to really deal with either of these tanks. So again, split-second decision. Our main force is really susceptible to hit point problems right now, right? So we're all 1 and 2 shots for everything. So we need to either kill something very quick or delay the fight until the 64 gets back into it. They know he slipped down the hill, and so they should be attacking us here. And again, we were kind of lined up to go this way, so I said, well, let's just keep going this way. We'll drive away from the TD. Again, you can argue both ways on this. Could we have turned to engage the lesser flexible tank because we could have beat him easier, or should we drive away from the lesser flexible tank because it's easier to mitigate fire from a tank with lesser flexibility? So I'll play it here. You know, there you go, one tank down. These guys have to push at this point, and then that doesn't do any good. We got shot from behind from the TD. So, you know, there's issues that happen there that are multiple sort of reasons, I guess. Crumble did an awesome job of getting that tank down to one shot. So now this tank has to ignore the tank destroyer. He should have saved that shot for the medium, right? Because he would have killed the medium and not killed himself on him, and then had a chance to play. He would have had a chance to play a TD in close quarters, which, you know, maybe if you get a track or whatever. I'm gonna rewind that again because this is a super important micro play thing that shouldn't be underestimated how important this is. So again, their TD misses. Our Crom B did an awesome job of just barely, hardly, somehow staying alive until we can get our other guy back into it. I think, again, this tank was worried probably too much about Gap and should have joined the fight earlier. I think if he would have done that, we would win. But he right here needs to realize two things. Is that he has to 100% immediately kill the one shot. He cannot, and they don't know where he is either. He's been on spot for a while. So he needs to not delay, and he needs to kill the one shot. And you can delay it by doing lots of things. You can delay because of the turret traverse in this tank. You can delay because of, you know, bad driving. You can delay because you're reloading. So that both those things happen here. And this is not, I don't. You know, this is actually what I would consider a really advanced play to do this, to give yourself any chance to win this, right? Because human nature is there's a tank in front of me, I'm going to shoot it, right? So this is like, yeah, of course I'm going to shoot this guy. He had all locks on him and shoots him. But you can see right there, I mean, the difference, even right there, he could have been auto-locked on the medium tank and shot the medium tank. I don't know if he hits him or bounces him or whatever. I probably would have drove past him and like zoomed in and focused the medium tank rather than auto locked, but I certainly would have not shot at the tank destroyer. I think I would have. I mean, obviously Monday morning quarterback here, but I would have driven. I would like to think I would have driven past the tank destroyer to kill the TD. Maybe even stopped right here, right? So he got hit by him, which is, you know, fine. He's lucky he didn't take two shots. You know, one from the tank destroyer, one from the medium. But right now too, another important thing is once he drives past him, right here he's safe for him for a second. So he needs to stop and kill this guy and then get back behind him. So by driving away from the TD, you know, in a way he's setting himself up to get shot by him again, rather than trying to stay close quarter with the TD and have already killed this guy. And so, you know, again, I think he shot there, but it missed or whatever, it hit the dead tank. But you know, obviously he didn't mean to ram kill himself, but like, I feel like he would have been better off staying close quarter with the TD and actually aiming the shot on this medium tank. I think that would have gave him a chance to win it. But you know, like I said, like I pointed out, there's multiple things that we could have done differently in that game. Whether it would have made a difference or not, I mean, maybe, probably. It was a very close game. I mean, there was things that could have gone differently, and we probably would have won in multiple regards.